What is up, everybody? Welcome into New Pod here on notfest.com. I am Joshua Toomey. That is Ro Coley, and we are here to talk some new metal with you. Ro, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I am tired as hell because I have nothing but 9,000 shows in 2 weeks. So, but you know what? I say, fuck it, man. Let's bring it on. Let's do things. Let's make things happen.
Yeah, we were talking New Pod, and you were actually telling me, like, new metal is alive and well. I guess you went to see Bloodywood, which was one of my top 10 albums of the year last year, man.
Yeah, actually, here I got actually we bought the vinyl at the
Rock Shock
at the show too. It's friggin' amazing. What's funny is that the opening band Wargasm has a shirt that says "New metal is alive and well," or
nice.
Something along those lines. Let me see. I took a picture of it because I thought it was so funny. Oh, do I have it on here? Probably don't anymore. But yeah, it was just like, it was so, I was just kind of blown away. I was like, oh my God, they actually have a shirt that says "New metal is alive and well." That's so funny. So.
Too much fun, man. Yeah, I love those guys, and some good Indian boys doing well.
Hey, you know what? I mean, being Indian myself and whatnot in the music industry, especially when I was growing up, early 2000s, mid 90s, it's like, the Indian people in metal and hard rock and in the music industry in general was pretty few and far between. We had like Kim Theo. We're like, oh my God, a brown guy,
right.
Afzal from Crisis, one of my boys right there, so it was kind of cool when somebody like me, some, Indian kid from New Jersey sees another Indian person in a band, in a metal band, no less, you go, oh my God, like they bucked tradition, they whenever I see an Indian metalhead, I'm like, oh, good, you're a disappointment to your parents too. Excellent. Like, let's bond. But now I think it's really cool because it's like now, when it comes to people like bands like Bloodywood or even what I'm doing or like a comedian like Russell Peters or Nimesh Patel or, any of these kinds of guys, it's like now we're kind of showing this newer generation that, you can look like this and be successful. You can, be an extreme comic who talks about all sorts of explicit subjects and be successful. You can be in a metal band and be successwell. It's no longer this like, how come you're not there'll always be, how come you're not a doctor when it comes to Indian parents. I think that won't go away for at least another 5 generations. But I think that's kind of it. It's like when you see that, kind of when especially like I said, like with Asians, especially whether it's Indian or Japanese or whoever, the pressure of parents and everything to be this ideal, living the American dream, being wealthy and all these kinds of things is always so prevalent, so to sort of be on this side of it where you get to go, oh my God, look at this. This is incredible. On a similar note, Iron Maiden put out a DVD a long time ago called Flight 666, where they did like 16 countries in like 25 days, or it was something insane where that's where they got their jumbo jet and they put all their stuff on it. But they played in, I think it was either Calcutta or Bombay or something like that, and like 40,000 people showed up. And like, even though 40,000 people in a country that's got almost 2 billion people is kind of a drop in the bucket, to see 40,000 Indian metalheads going to to see Iron Maiden, it was, for me, culturally speaking, it was mind boggling, because you sit there and you're like, the only way you could ever find out about metal bands in India and everything was if you had a brother or a cousin or an uncle who went to England or who came to school, went to school in England, went to school in America. Right. And that was your only way to really know about it. So to see all these like Indian metalheads with their, battle vests and shit, I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. So to see, Bloodywood doing what they're doing it well, wowing fans across the country and across the world. Like, I never was much for Indian pride, to be perfectly honest with you. And when your name is the Brown Satan, that's kind of a, right. Indian pride kind of goes out the window a little bit, but with this situation and with people like Russell and people like Nimesh Patel and all these kinds of people, it really is. It's super, I don't want to say gratifying. That's not really the right word, but it's like, it's endearing and it is kind of like a proud moment where you're almost kind of like, yeah, like this is awesome. Like I'm watching these guys really tear it up and I'm watching more than that. I'm watching the audience really either being introduced to this part of the culture or seeing more Indian people coming to these shows. And to me, that's I never thought that would be such a refreshing change of pace, but it really is. It's super amazing, and I crushed it.
When I interviewed Raul, I guess that was probably last year sometime at this point now, but and then they came to the States. First show they play is Louder Than Life, and like I was there as they took the stage, and like I almost I teared up watching them come out because I was like just happy for them. I could see it on their face. They're like, that's got to be huge for a band like that to get to the States. And it is crazy. You're talking about, I think the last time I looked, it was like 1.2 billion people in India. There's
they're actually going to overtake China as far as population goes very, very soon. So yeah, it's, they're creeping up there to the 1.5 to 2 billion mark,
And the the States is only like 350 million ish people, so it's a huge disparity there. But he was talking about how he found music and how he got like bootleg Linkin Park CDs and shit back in the day and all this other stuff, man. So yeah, it was definitely cool to see them come over and like I said, like you said, almost like proud papa moment for me too, just to kind of be a part of that and see them. And then I talked to them obviously afterwards in the media tent, and they're all smiles and happy that they're in the States. Yeah, I mean it's got to be awesome for those guys.
Yeah, when I first I met them briefly at Aftershock, and then they played right after Aftershock last year. They played down in Orange County at the Observatory, and my buddy is managing them. My actually old boss, to be honest with you, is managing them. So, I got to, me and my wife were hanging out with them. And it's funny because, I'm sure, people come up to them like, oh my God, you guys are great. You guys are great. But then I come up and I'm like, and I kind of start talking like my dad and everything. And they were just like, whoa, like, like we were like channeling my dad, because like my dad just sounds like that kind of old grizzled Indian dad, the kind that you're just like, okay, much respect, and I'm just like, I'm very opposite that. But at the same time, it's like, when I imitate my parents and, they're just like, they can hear that like, oh, dog, this dude's legit. Like he definitely is Indian, like he's not some guy who just kind of grew up here or whatever. Like, it's like, no, man, first generation all the way, but again, it's, and that kind of feeds into kind of the Nonpoint thing as well a little later. But just as far as just cultural, the cultural movement within metal is a big thing for me. When I see a band like The Who or Bloodywood, and it's like you start to see, we've always had. I mean, there's always been Latinos in metal. When you have your Fear Factories, your Brewerias, Asesino, Puya, et cetera. But it's like, but when you really see these, or Max, like when you see these. The cultural aspect of, like metal is kind of this universal language in a weird way that we all speak. But then when you see, Brazilians and South Americans and South Africans and, whatever it is, all these different cultures that really that becomes the connective tissue, I think is just, it's one of those things that I'm like, in a world where everybody either wants to be divided or is creating division or something like that. It's like, that's like the one thing that sort of, like I said, it's becoming this connective tissue for all of us to, to really go, all right, cool. Like, no, like that's why, like when I made those Pantera guitars, the mini guitars, my thing was, I didn't want to make the guitars for like just Dimebag. I wanted it to have all the Pantera covers on it because back then it didn't matter who you voted for. It didn't matter, what political party you were part of or, MAGA or whatever it is,
Right.
It was just, you're black, you're white. Like, I don't like, cool. Like just, if you fall, I'm going to pick you up. Like, that's how it is, like it didn't in the Pantera pit, none of that mattered. And I feel like that's sort of what's, I'm hoping is going to kind of be this sort of cultural revolution when it comes to metal, is that it's not going to matter, that we're all going to be tied to the, tied by metal. And that's going to be what really connects the whole world.
Yeah. I think that's even back to like you're saying Max and Sepultura and just being a kid and growing up and I would start to try to read Portuguese and you're like
right.
you're learning about different cultures and things like that. And knowing where Belo Horizonte is and all those stuff, like just really diving into different cultures and with Bloodywood too, it's when you think that metal has done everything and then they start bringing in those traditional Indian, instruments and stuff and the flutes and everything else. And, you got Homeboy on stage, like all this metal going on. And he's like, busting out a riff on a flute. Yeah,
it's like,
it's awesome, man. I love it.
Yeah, at first when I first heard it, I was just like, just being, like I said, being Indian and not really like, you're not like it, not so much not liking the culture, but just, being a little jaded to the culture just because of, my parents and everything and my upbringing, so when I heard some of that early on, I was like, oh, come on, really? It's like, it's like this novelty that's so stupid. But now it's like, now I've totally changed my mind on it. And now I like watch it and I'm like, no, this is exactly like, there needs to be a conduit that connects people to it. And I feel like if they didn't have that, they might just sound like a regular run of the mill sort of new metal-y kind of band. But when you introduce those new kind of elements to it, just like the Who with the throat singing and the kind of weird cello things that they play and all these kinds of things, like when you really start to include all of these cultural aspects to it, I think that is what morphs metal into this new kind of situation. We want to say NEW or NU, it kind of just opens it up, to a whole new audience. And I think that's really what it's all about. I don't want to stay stagnant, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you guys get cool flutes and drums and stuff. If my culture is probably like banjos and stuff. So yeah.
Hey, you know what? Zach Wilde did Pride and Glory, dude.
That's true. That's true. And
I loved Pride and Glory, and I think that's probably the closest I will ever come to liking country or even, like, a lot of Southern rock like Leonard Skinner kind of went over my head, just because that wasn't really my thing. But like, after listening to Pride and Glory, like me and my buddy were like, let's check out this Leonard Skinner thing and see really what because obviously they're influenced by it, but like, let's see what's going on. But yeah, it's like he was bringing banjos into it and everything. Or you look at a band like Candiria bringing jazz into this crazy hardcore, it was just like the most insane, like experimental jazz thrown right into this thing. And it's like, that I know that really opened up a lot of people to like, wait, I never even considered jazz, and then Candiria came and it was just like, holy crap, like it just worked. So I'm awesome. Stoked for those guys. I really want to see them do well, and I hope in some way, shape, or form I can be a part of that as well. Just to, if it's if I don't get to work with them directly, then to be able to promote them on a vehicle like this to really just get people into it.
How was the crowd?
The crowd was good. It was a pretty tight show. It wasn't sold out, but it was definitely tight. It was, and that's the thing, like the two singers and all that. It's like there's a lot of everybody jump kind of thing, and I think when that sort of thing happens, when the crowd feels even more a part of it, it builds that crowd energy up so much, that it was just really good. And again, just seeing more Indian people in the crowd, like it's to me, it's such a weird change of pace, but at the same time, I look around and I'm like, just like awesome, like for me, like being a Star Wars fan, in the 80s and the early 90s, like being a Star Wars fan was not something to be, right. People looked at you like nerd, and now it's like, I go to Star Wars Celebration, or I go to a San Diego Comic-Con, and it's just, it's entire generations of families now dressed up as Jawas and whatnot, and it's like that kind of thing where it's really cool to see it now, like break open and all these people really begin to accept it. When my parents, like I said, who are immigrants, start coming up to me and are like, what's going on with the new Star Wars? I'm like, holy crap, like this thing's penetrated the consciousness of everybody, that kind of thing. But,
awesome,
but the crowd was great though. The crowd was really awesome. Vended played, Corey Taylor's son's band. And they were really good too. I mean, it's so weird to look at Griffin, because like, not that I knew him when he was a kid or anything like that, but to hear him on stage, it's like you can hear just like you can hear Corey in him for sure, but it's not him copying Corey or anything like that. But it's the same thing. Just there's mannerism. We were talking to him after the show. There's just mannerisms, certain ways that he looks, or just in the light, like he'll turn a certain way, and it's just like you could see Corey in there. And it's just, oh yeah. But it really is. But I mean, but that band very much has their own thing going on, and crowd was super into them. Wargasm, unfortunately, I missed. But I just love the fact that their T-shirt, they had a T-shirt that said "New Metal is alive and well," and I was just like, "Wow, that says it all right there." Oh yeah.
Yeah, Griff is a great dude. I talked to him for a long time at the same Louder Than Life, man. I ended up actually talking to him more than I talked to Corey that day. We just ended up he's just talking about music and talking about it, his dad and just having like off the record conversations about like how crazy it is that Corey Taylor's his dad. Not like, oh my God, Corey Taylor's your dad, but we were having like more of the other conversations about, like how people would come up and be like, so I hear your dad's famous. And he goes, right. The story was, I hear your dad's famous. Well, my dad's famous too. He's a drug dealer, shit like that. Right. And like, kids coming up to him in high school and stuff. But,
right. Yeah. Seriously. I mean, that kind of pressure must be, I mean, just to be on that kind of level of
yeah.
Being in a high school or whatever. I mean, I don't know if you went to a private school or not, but like, if you're in public school, it's like, oh, your dad's this, what, you think you're better than everybody else? It's like, right. It's hard to not have that kind of stigma attached to you, but at the same time, I mean, it's obvious that these guys are putting in the work, and that's the thing for me, man. If you're putting in the work, you're talking to the fans, you're humble, you go to the merch booth and you talk to people and you're hanging out afterwards, and you're not just like, I'm just going to sit in my dressing room or sit in the van or whatever. Like, you put in the work. I don't care who the hell your dad is, like if you're putting in the work, then you deserve that success as well.
Yeah. And I love how much they've grown. I mean, like, when we saw him in Nodfest, Iowa, they were one band, and then I see him, a year or so later, and he was commanding the stage, and it was, you could tell like he's born into this. This is what he was born to do.
Another thing too, it's like that stage presence is really it's really important, and his dad absolutely has it, and you can see that, like, I don't want to say like, he's, like I said, he's not copying his dad, but like you can tell that they're in a weird way, it's almost in the blood to like be able to, but that's the cool thing. That's the essence of a great frontman, is not to just be the guy on the stage, is to make the people feel like they're on the stage as well with him, and I think that's the real true, calling of a frontman, is if you can make people feel like they're a part of it, even if they're all the way in the back of the arena or the venue, that you can make people feel like they're right up on stage with you singing in the mic. That's a testament of a really good frontman. So I'm stoked for them. I hope they do really, really well.
100% is. We are here because I did an interview with Robb Rivera, did track by track of Statement, the debut record for Nonpoint. That will be a staple of the show moving forward. And once we get our schedules, we are on different coasts and trying to get everything worked out schedule wise. Ro will be doing these with me, but I did have a good friend, Robb Rivera, on to do a track by track of Nonpoint's Statement. But I did want to talk one more thing before we dive into that. Was I went to see Riki Racthman here do a spoken word, kind of a storytelling history of himself, man. The dude talked for 2.5 hours on stage, and it was fucking great. I loved every moment of it, man.
He's got to have some great story. I mean, God, he's got to have some great, insane stories for sure.
Yeah. He it had a lot of video elements, which was cool. So he would tell a story and then maybe run a clip. And then, hey, this is the time that I interviewed, Soundgarden at a bowling alley. Here it is. And here's some Pantera stuff. We found clips. He found clips of like, never before seen stuff of Alice in Chains at the water park.
The Action Park in New Jersey.
At Action Park. Yeah.
I remember that.
It was funny because they talked about the Class Action Park part of it, how there were guests there. Yeah, and all that stuff, and they kept showing members of Alice in Chains like this park seems very unsafe. Like, we don't know about this park, man. It was crazy, like how they were just like, I don't know about this ride or that ride, and it was good times.
It was a park run by a bunch of teenagers, so what a great the documentary for that is insane. But yeah, that's rad though, because he interviewed people. I mean, I remember I didn't have cable, so anytime I could get to watch Headbangers Ball was like my eyes were glued to the TV because I had to try to absorb it as much as I could in the moment that I had. But I'll never forget, he was I think he was doing a pool party with Suicidal Tendencies and Infectious Grooves. Yeah, and it was just I just remember seeing stuff like that and just being like, wow, man, like what a life. Can you imagine? It's such a mind-boggling thing that we are now where we are.
Yeah, it was funny watching some of the stuff because I mean, really, he wasn't doing much more than, almost like early podcasting or something like that. I mean, it's just interviews with bands, and but it was just such a big platform of MTV that we, as kids, I was in high school all those Headbangers Ball years. I would record Headbangers Ball on Saturday night, and I would just watch it every day, just over and over throughout the week. And so even seeing him, and I've got a friendship with him now just through the podcast. He's been on a few times. I met him at a convention, at a podcast convention that we were both doing. So I emailed him and said, hey, I was coming out, and he was like, hey, go see my merch person. We'll grab a backstage pass type deal, and hung out with him for a few minutes. And it's just still surreal that Riki Racthman knows who I am.
Right.
It's just crazy that you can leave a show like that. And when he was going down the rabbit hole of the cat house and doing, Headbangers Ball, and they were showing all those clips and stuff, I was just like, it was such a time warp moment for me, just sitting there watching that. And I highly recommend going to see it. Like, if it's coming near you. I mean, there was about 100 people in this club, so it wasn't packed. And, he came out afterwards and talked to everybody. And we just kind of went to the side and talked for a little bit afterwards. And it was funny, when I first joined Knotfest to do stuff, he had just done the ball, and it was for Gimme Metal / Knotfest. Like, they were doing it together.
Right.
So I was like, man, I'm about to be working with Riki Racthman. And then when I talked to him, he was like, yeah, this is only a one-off thing, and my thing started right after his, and I was like, well, technically, I was like, damn it, I was almost co-workers with Riki Racthman.
So close.
We were so close.
So very close.
Last thing. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, please. No, I was waiting for you.
I was just gonna say, last thing before we dive into it, man. We talked Sick New World last week. This week, the times and the stages and everything came out, man, and this looks like a lot. So you're going? So yeah.
Apparently I am. It's going to be confirmed tonight.
Okay.
But yeah, that is a sick, ridiculous lineup, and sick, ridiculous set times is what they should be called. Sick, ridiculous world is really what it should have been called, because it's absurd. It's absurd, and it's funny. Me and my wife were looking at the set times, trying to figure out who we were going to see when, and we were like, man, I feel bad for Sisters of Mercy and Cradle of Filth. Like, they're going to be playing during System of a Down. Like, I feel like there's going to be 8 people watching them. It's like, right. But yeah, it's this is one of those festivals. Like, when I did Aftershock, I know that's a Danny Wimmer Presents show, like the Louder Than Life and a lot of those other ones, and I liked the setup of those, even though there are a couple of conflicts for me, which was unfortunate. I mean, it's just the nature of the beast, really, But with this one, I was like, my mind boggles as to why not just make it a 2-day show? Why is it really, is it that necessary to cram all of that into one day? That is my big question, because I know that, let's put it this way, man, my Fitbit's going to be on, and I'm going to get my steps, no doubt about it, but it's but it really is. It's just okay, we're, 10 minutes for this band, and 10 minutes for that band, and 5 minutes for that band, and 8 minutes here. And then we go to see the Deftones, and it seems like, I mean, I don't know. And this is my own personal opinion. I didn't go to When We Were Young. So, maybe it does work, and maybe it will work. I don't know, but it just seems like a lot of pressure, I think, to put on the fans, to be like, okay, well, hey, you can either see Kitty or you can see the Deftones. Take a pick, and it's well, why, in a weird way, it's almost like, why should that be a choice? But also, I have a sort of a problem also when they have big headliners. So let's say, hypothetically speaking, Kiss or, Pantera, whoever it might be, right? When the headliner's on, I don't feel like any of the other stages should be. Right. That's just my own opinion. That's what I liked about Ozfest was you had your main stage bands going on, but then after Soulfly, when I was on 2000, after Soulfly, that was the end of the second stage, and now everything is main stage, and that's it. And I think that's one of my sort of just gripes.
While System of a Down is on, 5 bands will play.
That's exactly that's kind of my point too, is and I feel like that's the part that's a little unfair to the fans. That's again, it's like,
well, that was crazy with
this is
with
my editorial,
with When We Were Young. Kitty played at the same time as My Chemical Romance. I was like, how do you play the big emo festival at the same time as My Chemical Romance?
Right.
Like, that's insane.
Right. It's like, yeah, it's like who, and it does make me wonder, like, how many people were there to see Kitty? I am definitely curious. So it's the same thing with this one. I mean, as much as I like System, it's like, I've also seen System many, many times. So in a weird way, I'm kind of like, okay, cool. I'll see him play a few songs and then let's go and check out, I don't know, whoever's playing Health or whatever it is, like let's go see what this is all about, because in a way, as much as I like System, I kind of want to, I would also hate for a band to go on during System, because obviously they must know what they're sort of in for as far as crowd participation and attendance, so it's almost like I kind of would like to be like, what, System's got their millions of fans, like let's go show a little love for the underdog, and that's something that I believe heavily in, whether it's Bloodywood or it's a band like Health, even if I don't care for Health's music or Fiddle Neck or whatever it's called, even if I don't know their music, it's like I am still always rooting for the underdog. The big bands were the underdog at one point, so I feel like, cool, like they're doing their thing. Somebody's got to go and kind of cheer those other guys on as well. So I hope people have a similar mentality in that regard,
I do have a correction from last week. I did kill off the singer of Stabbing Westward, which I did find out that he is alive and well. So go check out Stabbing Westward.
Yes, and they're currently a live singer.
No, I a couple of guys emailed and posted that I got that one wrong, but I was like, well, I guess it's cool that he's alive, because he had a great voice. So make sure to go check out Stabbing Westward. And yes, they're very alive. Vocalists.
very alive. I'm just bummed because I remember I said this too. I said I hope Monster Magnet doesn't cancel. I hope they don't cancel, and sure enough, no Monster Magnet.
Yeah, they are not on this list.
That was, and I saw a fair amount of people that were posting like, what? No Monster Magnet? Refund. And I was like, that's, but there was that part of me that felt it. I felt it. I felt it in my bones. I was like, either they're going to cancel, or it's going to be, because I know that those guys probably are like, we don't belong on this stupid show, like that kind of thing. These are older dudes who've been doing this for a while, like they want to play a biker bar, not to a bunch of fucking System of a Down kids, so
I'm sure it would have been fun.
Yeah, it would have been.
Well, I think that will do it for the intro here. We will dive into my chat with Robb Rivera, all about Statement, all about every track on the album, recording the album, getting signed, all the good stuff that comes along with Nonpoint and Robb Rivera. So let's throw to that, and then Ro and I will be back to finish it out, and we will talk to you guys soon. All right, guys, let's welcome Robb Rivera of Nonpoint to the show. Robb, man, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you, sir?
I'm hanging in there, man. As we talked before, but yeah, it's good to see you, man. Good to talk to you. Always good to get to talk some music with Robb Rivera.
Let's do it.
All right, man. So we're gonna dive into Statement, and that was your major label debut record, man. Just kind of going back and your thoughts on like just the overall thoughts on Statement and kind of major label deal, getting to go into the studio and stuff. What are your kind of memories of going into the studio and Statement?
Well, I mean, we were definitely rookies and green. We didn't really know. I've been to a couple studios, locally in South Florida when we released a couple CDs. So I kind of had experience, but not to the let's record to a click and let's play the song 5 times. We're going to pick and choose the best. I just, back in the day, I just went for it. If I made a mistake, I had to start all over again. Excuse me. But it was fun, man. Like I said, the first time I recorded to a click, I actually adapted to it pretty quickly. It was easy. I mean, I said, okay, I have to follow this. Okay, it's not that hard. So I felt pretty good doing that. Jason Bieler, who was also our manager for a while, he produced the record. Tom Lord Algie mixed it, and Keith Rose was the engineer, if I remember correctly. I would have to go to the credits, but I think that's right. When bands had credits on releases, now you don't read the credits anyway. But yeah,
looks like you got recorded and produced by Jason Bieler, engineered by Jason Bieler, Keith Rose, Chad Milosevic, and Spidey Plastic.
Chad. Spidey, I think he was a guitar tech.
Yeah.
He was just tuning, make sure all the guitars were all good and stuff.
Mixed by Tom Lord Algie, mastered by Bob Ludwig at Gateway Mastering.
Wow, he was a big dude. That was we had like some big time people, man, on there. You know, like our first
A&R Hans Haydelt. Okay.
Haydelt, yeah, he's a great guy. Dude I think he loves metal more than I do. We had some crazy conversations about metal, me and him.
I bet, man. Yeah, I know we've talked in the past about Jason Bieler, but if I'm not mistaken, he was a big part of you guys getting signed. If I'm correct,
yeah.
Right?
I mean, he was after Saigon Kick had disbanded. He started a band called Super Transatlantic.
Okay,
and it had the bass player Pat Badger from Extreme was in that band.
Oh wow!
And he had a couple other Florida dudes with him, guys that were with him in Saigon Kick. They just transitioned over to Super Transatlantic, and then we played this thing called the 94.9 Zeta Fest, which was the big radio station there in Miami. So we played on the second stage of the Zeta Fest. Actually, Def Leppard was headlining that day.
Nice.
Def Leppard, yeah, and when whatever band was big in that era, that in the 99 2000s, was pretty much. I think Veruca Salt was on that show, or something like that. But yeah, I played on the second stage. It was locals, and Super Transatlantic headlined the second stage. So we played that show, and Elias came up after me and said, "Hey, this guy named Jason, who used to be in Saigon Kick, he approached me." And I'm like, "Oh, cool, yeah." He said he wanted to talk to us. So come Monday, he called, and it was him. It's like, "Oh, you're really calling me?" So I didn't know, and I got all excited, because as someone known who had connections and whatnot.
Yeah.
So he came to the practice the next day. Then we started talking, and we entered this battle. We won this battle of the bands, like Ernie Ball battle of the bands to play Warped Tour.
Nice. So
he brought Hans to that show. So I mean, it made it even sweeter that we actually won it and got to
Right.
play Warped Tour when the guy that could come to check us out, is going to we win the competition, which made it look even better in his eyes, I guess. So he approached us after the show. He said, "Hey, I want you guys to work with Jason," and then so we moved into his rehearsal spot. And we started writing, we started writing music, well, and then taking some of the old songs and rearranging. So we just started working with this guy. I think we worked with him for like 4 or 5 months. And then all that became real. Here comes the fucking contract, and like, oh my God, this is actually happening. And then that's how it started. So Jason, yeah, he was a big reason for why we got a deal.
Do you remember were the numbers at the time? Because I mean, this was peak like new metal time too. So like contracts were probably a little bit bigger at the time. So looking at the contract and being like, this is our recording budget and this is this budget, and like was it just blowing your mind to see those numbers?
I won't get into any numbers, but it was big.
Yeah,
it was like all those bands at that time. The labels were just throwing money around,
right.
So it was pretty good. I saw the numbers. It was, it's the most money I'd seen written in my life.
Right.
So it was cool. I mean, it covered all, the videos and that wasn't even the touring budget. Actually, no, that was just a recording budget. I'm sorry. So it covered we were able to live off some of the money, and that included producer fee, studio, engineer, everything you have to pay for, when it comes to Now you can do a record for $1,000.
Right.
So yeah, just buy some gear and you're ready to go.
All right, man. Well, let's dive into it, man. Mind Trip up first. I think this is a killer leadoff track. Probably the first track, obviously, most people heard by Nonpoint at the time, and just a great groove, man. What are your memories of Mind Trip?
Mind Trip, when we got together for the first time with Andy and Ken, who are the guitar player and bass player, respectively, on the record, Elias and myself, and we had another guy named Sammy playing guitar at the time. We were 2 guitar players at that time, but it didn't. He eventually he left the band, and we did our thing. We wrote that song that night. The first time we ever got together, that version you hear on Statement, we wrote it that night. And I was like, what the? I couldn't believe it because the song has so many different vibes. It goes to this speed, it slows down, it goes fast. Like,
right.
It was just a really cool song. Like, there was really no structure to it. It was just a whatever, And that was my memory. The memory is that we actually wrote it in one night. We wrote it in a couple hours. Everything came together super fast.
I know, obviously know you pretty well to know that you kind of grew up with a thrash background. And the one thing I noticed on this album and just through your career, you're a very heavy meat and potatoes kind of, kick drum snare kind of drummer, like just hitting those grooves, man. Did you have to like pull back a little bit on any of this stuff, or were you just playing for the song? What were you doing there?
Well, I mean, to me, and even I still approach it this way. I play for the song. I do whatever I want. And then if the producer feels like maybe we should do a little less and we bring it down, or I'll listen to it and I'm like, okay, maybe this is a little too much. But like you said, I'm a meat potatoes guy. I'm like the AC/DC style, right. Just groove, but I do like to add my fills. I like to add some cool stuff. I'll add some Latin type beats, So, I mean, for me, it's the groove to me is king.
Yeah.
There's an old saying that says, was it fills bring the thrills, but grooves pay the bills.
Okay.
And I've kind of lived by that motto, like I like to play for the song, man. I like the guitars and the vocals to be the shining star. I just want to make sure it doesn't fall off. I'm like the little bridge and just goes one way and then, they walk on it. I'm like the boat, that just moves and I want the guitars and vocals to shine. I don't really care for me to shine. I mean, I'll throw in my things every now and then, but on Mind Trip, that song, like, man, there's a lot of drum stuff going on there. It's like, and we actually, our recent tour, we were opening with that song.
Oh, nice.
And then, so here I am, 53 years old.
Right.
I play a song that I wrote when I was 27. And it's harder on the body. But, after a few shows, it's like, wow, that muscle memory comes back, it's like everything come back and it was fun to play. That's a real fun song to play.
Yeah, it was a great track. Victim, man, the opening of Elias's opening there. It kind of seems
the infamous fuck that.
Yeah, the almost seems a little out of character for Elias. I don't really know him to be much of a cusser, but
he is quite the cusser.
Okay.
He's quite the cusser. That song was actually written before Ken and Andy were in the band. We had a different version of Nonpoint. It was kind of like Nonpoint Factor or not. It was teetering on to go just to Nonpoint. So I wrote that song with my old bass player, the original version, with my old bass player, Hector, who actually become the bass player in 40 Below Summer.
Oh, nice.
So we wrote it together. I wrote it on guitar. He played drums. And that's how we wrote it. We wrote it in like 5 minutes. But when we got with Jason, we rearranged it. So that version is on our Separate Yourself CD. But Victim is a complete different version from that one. So that's really the roots of the song. That it was really written before Andy and Ken. We used to say all the time, Ken Andy, we say Candy.
Nice.
So before Andy and Ken were in the band, we wrote that song. But after they came in, then we rearranged it.
Yeah, it's got a great chorus, man. The "Oh My God" chorus, I love it.
Yeah, that's the part where the crowd comes in and yells the "fuck that," which just never gets old. That shit never gets old.
You guys still play that one? Is that one in the set a lot still?
It comes out every now and then. Yeah, we played it on the previous tour. We played it. I think we played it on the Seven Dust run. I'm not 100% sure, but we didn't play it on the last tour.
And then one of my all-time favorite Nonpoint tracks is "Endure." I think I've worn you out over this song over the years, man. But this might be my favorite Nonpoint song ever.
Yeah, that song to me is very anthemic. It's got an anthem style vibe, and when we wrote that after we met Hans and Jason came into the picture. That's one of the songs that we wrote after Jason started working with us. That wasn't one that we had before he came. As you can tell, there's more structure. There was more paying attention to melody and stuff like that. But that's one of my favorite songs to play. We also did a video with that song, which is basically filmed at the Ozfest 2001. You see Chester, you see Dave Draymond, you see a bunch of people in the video, which is super cool. That was so nice of them to join, to agree to be in the video. After the red tape, we had to go with the labels at that time. You had to do all that. We need permission type deal. But yeah, that song is one of my favorites, man. I love Elias's vocals on it. He really shines on that track. Probably one of my favorite vocal performances that he's done.
Yeah, man, the verses on that, just even what you're doing and like just the riff itself and everything, man. I can't get enough of Endure.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
All right, man. Back Up.
Back Up. That was the first song we wrote once we started working with Jason, and we wrote that at his rehearsal spot in Coral Springs, Florida. No, I'm sorry. Where is it? Pompano Beach or something like that. It was somewhere. And this rehearsal spot was just in a really bad neighborhood. I mean, it was I don't know how. I mean, he had thousands upon thousands of dollars of gear in there. Yeah. And it was behind a sandwich shop, which would trip me out even the most. There was a sandwich shop connected to it. And but it had a real. That's where we started rehearsing with the click, and we wrote that song to a click.
Okay.
So, well, it was really cool. That song had just the whole message, and we actually played that recently. I think last year we played it, and the crowd was just loving it. They loved it. It's like all the old school fans, like, oh shit, like Back Up, like one of the deep cuts, on the record. But yeah, and I love the solo. The guitar solo is one of my favorite parts of the song. Like back at that time, we were in that whole new metal.
Right.
Still, I guess, considered to be that, even though we kind of broken away from it, but a little bit. But honestly, I don't care if they put us in that category. I don't care. But at that time, there was really no bands doing guitar solos. So Andy threw one in there. As I thought that kind of made us different. That we had a guitar solo in the song.
Yeah.
Most of those bands, I think like Korn and Deftones and Limp Bizkit, I don't think had guitar solos in their songs. If I remember, I don't remember ever hearing.
I don't think they did either.
I think Godsmack was one of the first ones to put from that genre, from that era. Well, Tom Morello, I guess what he does is he does all the noises. That's considered doing solos as well. But that's one of the things that I loved about the song. I think that was my favorite. Actually, my favorite part of the song was the solo, because we were able to bring that element, because Andy grew up listening to Hendrix, Kirk Hammett, Stevie Ray Vaughan. Those were his guys. He loved playing solos, and his solos were always very blues based. So
it's funny to talk about the solos thing. This is way fast forward, but when I had BC on the show, it was just funny talking to him. He was like, he grew up learning Van Halen and all that stuff, and then new metal hits, and all you want's like, a simple, basic, meat and potatoes tracks. And so it was great to get him to later on bring some more solos into the band. But yeah, he was so mad that like when he just switched, like they didn't do guitar solos and stuff.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest things about having him in the band. Like, he soloed pretty much on every song.
Yeah,
and it was cool because he grew up with that, and I just think it added, another element to the band. I thought solos, we didn't do a lot. We started more solos when he joined.
Yeah,
but up until then, we didn't really have. We had solos, just not a lot of them.
Yeah, my notes on Back Up, man, is a slamming groove, and then it also is like kind of just a staple sound of the band. Like not like that. That's kind of a staple Nonpoint sound.
Yeah, I feel you. I get if I'm gonna show that record to somebody for the first time, that would probably be the track that I would show them.
All right. And then here's a big one, man. What a Day.
Well, still to this day, it's in our set. You know, it's one of our bigger songs. Like if you would have told me in 2000 that people were still going to be singing that song in 2023, I would have told you you're nuts. Like it's crazy, like how much that song has just all of every one of our fans knows it. You know, they know that song. It was our first single, basically, and I think it got to number 12 or 13 on the charts, which is really good. You know, that was our biggest, I believe, it's one of our biggest charting singles. I'm not really 100% sure, but that song at first used to start with a drum beat. It didn't start with the guitar like how people know it. But when we went to mix, Tom Lord Alge heard it. He says, you know, I think we should do this. So he took the drums out and just let the guitars and vocals do his thing. So that was his idea to do that. And I thought it was at the time, I said, wow, okay, that's really cool, because then it slams in, you know, like, so yeah, that song has been, I remember the only ever time we never played that song, it's the first time we went out with Hell Yeah and Machine Head. Okay. And then after the third show, Rob Flynn comes up to me and says, why are you not playing What a Day? He said, that's one of your biggest tracks. It's more of a metal crowd. You know, we want to kind of play heavier stuff. But then on the next show, we started playing, and then people started going nuts. So 3 times we didn't play it, and Flynn got on my case.
Well, Rob knows best.
Well, but I did tell him that if I played What a Day, he had to play 10 Ton Hammer.
Nice.
So, and then he started playing 10 Ton Hammer. We started playing What a Day.
Yeah, that 10 Ton Hammer riff, that's
like my top 3 Machine Head songs ever.
Yeah. The lyrics are very specific. Is this an actual true story, or like something Elias actually had happened to him?
I don't think it happened to him. I think it happened to a friend of his.
Okay.
I'm not really sure what the history is, but I do believe I heard him say one time it happened to his buddy. This guy, he had a friend named Fred, and I think that's him. I'm not 100% sure, but I think he said that happened to a friend of his. It didn't happen to him. Yeah, because I was reading the lyrics again today, and I was like, man, this is very specific. Like, this is a very specific day. Yeah, no, it wasn't him. I believe it. We've talked about this, but the Seth, the security guy from Metallica, is in the What a Day video, correct? He is, yeah, looking badass, you know, and I just recently, well, when did I see him? Me and him text all the time. I saw him when Metallica played at the Metro in Chicago. Oh, nice. And that's when we started talking, reconnected. But yeah, man, that was he was so cool to hang out with back then. It was so awesome. Yeah, man, you hooked me up with that the Metallica show here, and you hooked me up with him, and he was the nicest guy I think I've ever met in my life. Like he walked up, he like hugged me, like gave me a couple of guitar picks, like gave me a wristband and said, "Go have fun, man." Like we were old friends. It was great. He has been one of the nicest guys that I've ever met. And then who knew back then he'd be working security for Metallica, you know, it's like, but yeah, I think I might see him this year at one of the shows, hopefully. So. Yeah, I think I'm going to go to the St. Louis shows. I think I'm going to that one too. I think. All right, man. Well, I may see you. We'll have to get together, man. All right, let's dive into Misled. Misled. You know what? When you told me you wanted to do a breakdown, I don't remember when that song got written. Right. All I know that when I recorded it, instead of a click, I had a shaker. Okay. It went and you down. That's when you hear that riff, and that's what I was playing. That really, I had so much fun recording that song because of the shaker, because I was following that shaker the whole time. Yeah. But I don't remember when we actually wrote that song. And we haven't played it in a long time. Actually, the last time we played this when we did that Statement live stream.
Oh, nice.
That was a lot of fun having to learn all that stuff again.
When you dive back into stuff like that, was it old hat, or did you really have to sit down and really learn?
No, you know what? There was a feeling, what a day, that I don't do anymore. That it was in there, and I said, let me relearn it as it is on the record. Yeah. So I had to go back and listen, because we've changed a little bit of the song since then. They've taken on like a new life.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll do a different beat. I'll improvise some things, and the guys will do some improvisation. They improv as well. But yeah, man, I'm trying. I remember when we wrote it. I just can't. That's one song I do not remember for the life of me.
It just came out of the ether, man.
Yeah, I mean the vibe. I mean, to me, what I can say about the song is it's got a very Latino style riff. Very Puya-ish. Because we were big fans of Puya at that time. We still are. They were one of the bands that when we started, looking into writing Spanish style songs, they were the major influence of that. So
yeah, great riff on Misled. Let's jump into Double Stacked.
Double Stack was written when we were a local band, and I'm not sure it deals with drug use. That song, as I want to reiterate, like we were always labeled this new metal band, but we have a 7-minute song.
Right.
No bands at that time had 7-minute songs. It was a song that had like break beats, like DJ break beats, and then there's a blues section in the middle. It's like, and there's hip hop style singing, and there's screaming, like everything that Nonpoint pretty much was, or it still is. We it's in that song, and that was a favorite in the local scene in Florida.
This one I wrote down. I know you guys. One of the stories is you open for Snot, and then you really get into playing a different way live. This one almost kind of has a Snot feel to it. I don't know if Snot actually influenced this track or not. No,
I don't think we had heard Snot around that time.
Okay.
I'm not even sure. Maybe we did. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, we did. No, Snot was not a direct influence on this song. We wrote this together at right now our rehearsal studios in Fort Lauderdale, and that they sorry, my finger keeps popping in the thing. We it was one of those songs that when we finished it, it's like, what the hell did we just do? And I was happy it made the record, because it showed a different side of the band, and that also has blues style solo in that song, where Andy really like channels his Stevie Ray Vaughan thing. So, which is really cool.
And I believe it's Korn's Twisted Transistor. When that song came out, did you guys go, that riff's a little close there, Head and Monkey? Well, I guess it would have just been Monkey at the time.
What riff?
The opening riff. Like, I was listening to it again. I was like, man, this reminds me of something. And it finally hit me that I think it's
What year did that come out?
Oh, Twisted Transistor is 2010. So I mean, this is way after.
Our record came out in 2000.
yeah. I'm saying
I don't know if that was a direct influence of the song. I don't even think I've heard that song by Korn.
No, yeah, To Them. Yeah, it's a single, but yeah, it's very similar to the opening riff.
All right, I'm gonna check it out once we're done here.
Get on the lawyers.
Yeah. Nah, I don't care about none of that stuff.
Nah, you know what? I'm just messing with you. The Orgullo. Orgullo. Okay.
Yeah, which means pride in English.
All right. So talk about that one. Obviously, being just kind of kicking back to the Puerto Rican heritage there.
Yeah, that song was written before Ken and Andy were even in the band. Like, I wrote that song with Hector, who used to be in 40 Below Summer. Me and him wrote that. I wrote all the lyrics. I wrote the beginning guitar stuff, and he wrote when the guitar comes in down. He wrote from then on, and that song we changed it for that recording, the bridge is not the same as it is on the original recording. But yeah, the reason that song came about, there was a girl in Puerto Rico called Melba Miranda.
Okay.
And she is a big supporter of rock in Spanish. I mean, massive supporter. And she came up to me, you know, Rob, you're from Puerto Rico. I really think you should write a song, you know, for your island, blah blah blah. Like she put a lot of pressure on me. So
Right.
I just didn't know about us doing that. You know, like it says, how are we gonna do that? Because, you know, Elias, I mean, he knows Spanish, but to sing Spanish, I think it's a little bit more difficult.
Right.
To try, you know. So I mean, he does it, he kills it. So I was kind of a little apprehensive at the time, not because of Elias. It's just like, what am I going to write about? Because I had to write the lyrics. You know, it's like, so I wrote. She was like, okay, well, she wants a song about, you know, I should be thankful, you know, play for the people of my country. So the song was about me being proud of being Puerto Rican, you know, being of my heritage. So I said, okay, she kind of gave me subject matter. So I said, okay, so let's do it. So that's really how the song came about, because I got pressure from someone to write a song in Spanish. Yeah.
Did she hear the song and did she approve?
You know what? I still to this day have no idea if she's heard the song. I was living in the States at that time, so
nice.
Yeah.
Does that track hit the live show and you know, do you guys play it in Spanish speaking areas? Does that
yeah,
go over
we'll
well
play it
there?
in Texas. We'll play it basically anywhere. You know, it doesn't matter.
Texas.
Yeah, we'll play it in Texas, California, Arizona. You know, where it has a predominantly, you know, large Latino, you know,
Right.
amount of a lot of people in the Latino era, or whatever you want to call it, Latino people.
Right.
You know, so like it's good because, you know, I love when we go and they ask for it. Oh, play Rabia, play Buscándome, or play El Diablo, play or like, and it's awesome because you see them sing and it's so cool. And when we played it in Puerto Rico, everybody was singing it. It was like, it was really cool to see that. But we do play. I mean, we play it in obviously in. We pretty much play that song everywhere around the country. Just we don't play it as much now because we have so much material. So.
Yeah. How do you guys go about set lists? Just on a tangent, you know, are you guys tour specific, or are you guys fluid as the tour goes on? How does everything work?
Well, we'll sometimes during the tour we'll change it up. It really depends, but it's hard, man. We got 10 records and a bunch of singles after that. So, you know, you kind of have to. Obviously, your What a Day and Bullet has to be played. So there's 2 already you got to knock off the list. And we'll put in Breaking Skin, who was a pretty big track for us too. And what else? The Truth. We play The Truth. We play The Truth on the last tour, and we played Buscándome on the last tour. We'll throw that in there every now and then. But it's really, we're not tour specific. Every single tour we've actually changed it, or we just drop one off the set, make the set a little shorter, or we add one, make it a little longer. You know, it just depends. But we've never been really tour specific. Right? I don't think I've ever done a tour where we've done that one set list the entire tour.
All right, let's dive into Years.
Years was another song that we wrote before Jason came into the picture. It was rearranged when we worked with him. I am still very partial to the original.
Okay.
You know, like, yeah, if it's on the Separate Yourself, if you stream Separate Yourself on any of the streaming platforms, it's on Separate. It's on there, that version. I don't know. It's just there was a better vibe. I think it lost a lot of the heart when we recorded it on Statement. I don't know. That's really the only one that I'm partial of. The older versions, there's that one, but it's cool. We wrote a new bridge, and that bridge is really fun to play live because we can throw it down big time on that part. But yeah, it's a fun song.
Yeah, it's got some great riffs in it. All right, Hive.
Hive was like we just played that recently too. Hive is what our guys really love playing that song. Like, I don't do a click on that one. I go straight live to that one. There's a vibe on that it needs to be done without a click. It just has a bigger energy. But that I get to show off my little thrash beats. You know, I get to show off my thrash beats. So yeah, dude, that song was written actually with Hector again. With me and Hector wrote that song. Actually, me and Hector wrote that song, and then Elias redid the lyrics. They had old lyrics and old melodies, but yeah, that's a cool song. That's one of those bangers, live bangers we can play every now and then.
Yeah, it's definitely got like some punk elements to it, and like with the go and the obviously your thrashy beats, punky beats, man. It's good stuff.
Thank you, man. Appreciate that.
Another side tangent, man. What do you remember touring this record? You know, what were some of your first tours out the gate?
The first tour we did, I believe, was with Earth Crisis and Glassjaw.
Nice.
That was fun playing to that crowd. Playing to that crowd was difficult for us, but it was fun. There was only one show actually that was difficult. But that, I mean, the guys in Earth Crisis and those super nice guys. It was awesome. That was a cool way to start. It was 6 shows, so it was like a mini tour, but it was fun, man. And we did Mudvayne and Ultraspank. That was fun. They were co-headlining. We did Machine Head and Nothing Face and Endo.
Wow.
We did Head PE. We did Spine Shank and Mudvayne, and then we did Kitty.
Wow.
We went out with Kitty. That was fun too. They were sweet. They were fun to tour with. Then we did the Ozfest on that. Obviously, we did Fuel and Seven Dust. We did Stereo Mud. God, I'm about to tell you almost every tour. I'll tell you every tour. And we did Spine Shank and us. That was cool. Those guys were really cool. Then we did Head PE. Head PE and Systematic, I think it was. Yeah, and then we did our first ever headline tour, which was Ankla, Us, Seamless, and what was Johnny's band's name? The other one after Spine Shank, Johnny Santos' band. It was a real heavy band.
Yeah, it was another S band.
It was a metalcore band, I think. I forgot the name of it. Silent Civilian.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Silent Civilian. Yeah, so yeah, that was it was a tour. That was a fun tour. But yeah, man, that was one of the best touring cycles I think I've ever done. Yeah,
and like it's crazy. All the bands that you named are like almost all of them are regarded in such high regard now, and you kind of coming back around again, and like Kitty's playing again. And I mean, I wish obviously Nothing Face can't, but man, what a great band those guys were.
I think Spine Shank should come back.
You know, it's funny we talk about doing these album deep dives. I was actually talking with Mike Sarkeesian about doing a Spine Shank deep dive, man. And going back and just throwing that record on just to hear it again. Yeah, man, such good stuff, man. Is
that the second record you're talking about?
The second record is what I was talking about.
Yeah, I first heard them on their first record.
Yeah.
Their very first record. And they toured down in South Florida, but I can't remember who they toured with. But they were fun, man. And that first record was cool, but the second album sounds really good. The production, but they like completely leveled up music-wise.
Height of Callousness is what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that's a great record.
It's funny, how I heard of them was they had put an ad in, I think Metal Maniacs, and it's like, hey, if you want a free cassette demo, call this number and leave your address. And it was Mike's like pager number. They called and left a voicemail. And that was before they got signed to Roadrunner, which is crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, good times, man. All right, Levels. Let's dive into Levels.
Levels is another one that I have no idea how it got written.
Right.
That one and Misled, I like when you told me we were going to do a track by track, I had no story about those songs. Levels has not been played very much live.
Yeah.
That's one of the songs. That's probably the song that has least. It's not been played more than 5 or 6 times. Wow. We did it. The last time we did it was for the Statement live stream. And that one, I actually had to go back to that one to learn it.
Write some notes down. I thought that was a good. That's a good Elias singing song. Like,
yeah, he really killed it on that track. That was fun.
And was in the album with Tribute. What was the genesis of Tribute? Obviously,
I was Elias's baby. Like, it was his idea. He basically came to practice with the idea. He said, I want these 3 parts, and let's throw in some of our stuff. So it starts off with Slick Rick's children's story.
Yeah.
And Busta Rhymes Wuha, then Method Man's version of METHOD Man, whatever,
Right.
that was originally on the Wu-Tang album.
Right.
I kind of wish we had done the Wu-Tang version, because I love the Wu-Tang version over the Method Man version. But it was really cool. That song just became like our own. Like, that one was a huge favorite in South Florida, especially the woo-ha, that part. People love that woo-ha part. And then at that time, we had a percussionist named Mike Becker, who was actually the guy who originally rapped on it. Like, when we recorded it locally, before we recorded it for the record, Mike Becker was the other rapper on there. But yeah, it was fun, man. I love playing that song, and still, we redid it with Rashid Saint doing the raps, and we've done it live once with him. We did it at Blue Ridge.
Oh, nice.
And it was so much fun to play. That is a lot of fun to play that song.
On this version, it's Grim from Darwin's Waiting Room. How did that come about?
We both got signed to MCA at pretty much around the same time, and then Hans recommended him to be on the track. So we went, we said, okay, cool, yeah. And then I wasn't there the day they did it. I went back to my job, at the job that I had. I didn't stop working until we went on tour. I stayed working for 6 more months after we got signed.
Oh, wow.
But, wow, man, I wanted to have a good, I wanted to be in a good financial situation. I didn't want to leave and be broke. I want to make sure, like, my apartment was still paid and all this other stuff. So, and just to save, but I wasn't there when they recorded it, but it came out cool. I mean, a lot. We played that. We did a tour with them, the Separate Yourself tour. I'm sorry. Actually, I told you the tour before Ankla and that was for To The Pain. I'm sorry. That was the wrong tour. The headlining tour was Switch, Darwin's, and Reveille. Okay. That was the tour that we did. That for our first headlining tour wasn't Ankla. So you can cut that out. but
strike that from the record.
Yeah, but and Graham would come out every night and do it. That's how we ended the show, with that song, and it was a live favorite for sure. People loved it.
Cool, man. Well, to wrap it up, man, what's your kind of your just overall memory of Statement?
Well, I mean, it got us through the door. I mean, it sold over 350,000 copies. It was the birth pretty much of everything. It opened every single door that we're still able to go in through today. It really established us. People were buying records at that time, and it was fun to know that I've sold 325,000 copies of one record. To me, it's cool. Like, maybe one day it'll go gold. Who knows? But yeah, it's cool, man. I just thankful that we were able to put that out, and be introduced to the world, basically. So it was awesome.
Yeah, and just my personal, looking back on it, and even listening to it the last couple of days as we got ready to do this, it's just funny how big of a fan of Nonpoint, I am, or I was back then. Like, all these tracks, like, every time I was listening to them, I was like, oh yeah. Like that, they were bringing back memories too. It's funny, you've done so much stuff with me podcast wise over the years. It's kind of, it's like, oh yeah, Rob from Nonpoint, that's cool. But then, like, I actually go back to, like, this record, obviously before knowing you, and I'm like, oh man, I was such a huge fan of the band back in the day. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people have that record in high regard. It's still, like, a lot of people's favorite. That went into the Pain have the most, like, votes as far as who likes one record over the other, but or the most, whatever. But yeah, I was looking through the CD jacket not too long ago. It's like, man, like, look how young we were, and I started reading the thank you. It's like, wow, I forgot about this person. Oh my God, I wonder how this person's doing. So it brings back a lot of memories. And I listened to a couple of the tracks, and I remember what was going through my head at that time. I remember where I was, like, I remember like certain tour memories come up, and it was fun. It was a lot of fun. That cycle was
everything about that cycle was amazing. I cannot. One of the best times of my life and the best summer of my life ever on the Ozfest. That was absolutely the best time I ever had on tour.
And hopefully you will have as much fun this summer as you guys go out with Mudvayne and Coal Chamber, Guar. You guys, Butcher Babies. Man, what a stacked bill that's going to be.
Yeah, and it just comes full circle. Like Mudvayne was our first ever tour. And Chad worked on us with Miracle. He took us out with Hell Yeah. I've been to his house. In Vegas.
Right.
He's just a really good friend of the band. We finally got him to play Miracle with us in Vegas. He sang it for the first time ever. It took 11 years to get him to do it, but he did it. I don't know if he's going to do it this summer, but I'm not going to ask him if he wants to come out with us, and we'll add the song in the set. But I've never toured with Guar. That should be interesting. I mean, I've heard I've never seen them live. I know what they do. I know they do a lot of cool stuff. We've only done a few shows with Coal Chamber. I talk to Dez every now and then. We text back and forth. I've never met Mikey, the drummer, but now for the last 2 months, like, we've been talking a lot. Like, so I'm stoked to not only watch him play, because he's a beast live, man. I do think that guy can throw down. I've never met. Is it Naja? Is that her name, Naja? Is that how you pronounce it? I don't know if that's. Yeah. I don't know if that's how you. I hope if you're listening, I'm sorry, but I've never met her. We follow each other on social media, and I comment, and she comments on my stuff. So we haven't officially met, but. And Meeks, I've known for a while. I just saw him not too long ago playing with Gemini Syndrome. We did a show in Biloxi, and I'd forgotten he was still a guitar player in that band.
Nice. But, and then obviously you guys are big friends with Butcher Babies, so
yeah, we've toured with them. We love the girls. We know everybody in the band. We love Henry, a guitar player, super cool guy, and with Mudvayne, obviously, like I said, we've had a relationship with those guys since 2000. When I still remember the encounter. Like, I walked out of the venue, Chad was there. He said, "Oh, are you in Nonpoint?" I remember that forever. That's in my head. Like, that was my first meeting with him, and we had those long beard dreads or whatever, those things. Yeah. So, and from then on, man, we just have had an amazing relationship with those guys.
Yeah, and I love that the style of music, the new metal style, has kind of come back full circle, and we're Mudvayne and Coal Chamber, playing Sheds now with you guys.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it is coming back. A lot of bands reuniting. There's a lot of stuff happening. I don't know if Flyleaf was ever put in that category, but was Flyleaf ever part of the new metal thing?
I think they're fringe. I mean, I remember seeing them on. They did one of the Family Values tours with like Korn and Deftones back in the day, so they were kind of fringe new metal.
Okay, so they were kind of outside, but kind of in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, everybody's even Union Underground, I think, are playing this year.
Yeah.
At Blue Ridge, I think, or did they play last year? I don't remember, but there's a lot of bands getting together, man. Like, hopefully, it'll. And new bands like Tetrarch has been
so good.
Thrown into that new metal thing, and they're like the new school new metal, So,
right.
If it makes a comeback, makes a comeback. Ryan's back running pool.
Mm-hmm.
So there's, they were kind of putting that whole new metal thing as well, And even Seven Dust was put in that, which I never understood that. But
yeah, that's the one thing about new metal is the term new metal is all encompassing. Thrash metal kind of has a sound, but new metal could be Static X, or it could be Alien Ant Farm, or it could be Seven Dust. You know what I'm saying? There were so many different variations of it. Deftones, Korn, or Slipknot, stuff like that. So it's crazy how it's a widespread terminology.
A lot of bands from that area, like Un Loco and all these got thrown into this thing. And I'm like, kind of like, what is actually new metal then? I tried to figure out what it is. I thought it was a rapper and a band who had a DJ.
Right?
That's what I thought new metal was. And that's nothing. We didn't have a DJ in our band either. So, like,
you should get one.
A lot of DJs have tried to join though.
Too fun, man. Well, Rob, man, as always, it's good to catch up with you, and thanks for taking some time here and going down the statement rabbit hole with me and taking some time here on the show.
Yeah, no problem, man. I appreciate it, dude. I love that you've been a supporter of the band. Thank you. You're probably the person I've done the most. You're the one I've done the most podcasts. But I appreciate you, man. Thanks a lot, man. Hope all is well on your.
Oh, definitely, man. Huge thank you to Robb Rivera for coming on the podcast. Make sure to go and check them out this summer on tour with Cold Chamber, Mudvayne, Gwar, and Butcher Babies.
God, what a tour.
Yeah, I know, right? It's going to be a lot of fun.
That is that's a beefy tour. That's like a Mexican baby-sized burrito of metal right there. Like nice. That is like, yeah, that's one that you got to put in the microwave the next day and eat for the next, 2 or 3 meals. That's a solid tour, man.
Absolutely. I just want to say thank you guys for everyone that reached out from episode 1, emails, yes. Facebook comments, Instagram comments. It was great to see Ro posting it, people popping up over there and everyone had a lot of positive things to say about the show. So that was a lot of fun. So make sure to hit up those YouTube comments, hit up the Instagram, the Facebook, all that good stuff.
Yes, please like us, please share us. And if you got comments and everything like that, if you have opinions, if you have whatever, we may not listen to all of them, but we'll definitely read them. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
We'll absolutely read them, and we will likely make fun of you afterwards, but definitely not to your face. Not to your face. We will definitely do that behind your backs. We are good like that.
We are very good like that.
We have tact, for sure.
Just once again, thank you guys for checking out the show. Make sure to share, rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff. Tell a buddy, bring a friend. And for the new pod here, notfest.com, I've been Joshua Toomey. That is Ro Coley, and we will talk to you guys next week.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you guys soon.
Awesome.